Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Ambient Afternoons. So today we're doing like we always do in ambient bass effects mornings. I said afternoon, I meant mornings. Um, but one thing we always do is just kind of explore various combinations of effects, and I do a lot more playing than talking during this time. So feel free to hit that like button, hit that hype button, hit the reactions. That definitely helps me out a lot. As well as feel free to ask questions, and when I stop, I'll try to answer them. Appreciate you over on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, all of them. Instagram, appreciate all you guys. So let's get back to business. Oh, don't forget to subscribe and check out the Patreon, of course. All the preset packs and a lot of these pedals you see and sounds you hear, you can actually own yourself and use it for your own purposes. You can find it all on the Patreon. appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate you commenting as usual. Appreciate the comments and appreciate the love. And yeah, I'll be streaming on Sundays now when I play at church as well, so you can catch that as well. All right, let's go. Hey guys, if you haven't already, hit that like button wherever you are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, where we at, Kick, Twitch, everywhere. Hit that like button for me. Hit the hype button for me on YouTube, and the reactions for me definitely helps me out. And if you want a better view from the TikTok, check me out over on on YouTube, and you'll have a much better view. And it's just TikTok prefers you do it from your phone. So I definitely want you guys to get a good experience though. So make sure you head over to YouTube, check me out. Those of you on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? You know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe. And if you want some of these settings that you're hearing, a lot of them are available on the Patreon for the different pedals. So make sure you check all that stuff out. So most of that soloing stuff you heard there was the Hog 2, which is one of my absolute favorite pedals. For those of you on TikTok, it's this big silver pedal right here. And it gives you a lot of octave options there. So I can easily turn into an organ sound, just like think of these as like drawbars. See, I love this. I love the Hog 2. It's the only pedal that does this. You know what I'm saying? And allows you to really stack those harmonies. And you can even have them have different envelopes. So I can say have the higher ones be the first part of the note, and then fade into, and have the lower parts fade in. And I can make that even shorter. Yeah. I mean, come on. Like the Hog 2 is just take it about that. Ew. Oh, see, it just gets nasty. So, that's something you can get close with a Pog, the new Pog 3. And the new Pog 3 has some nice stuff to it as well. Allows you to basically be able to um, get most of these octaves, just not all of them. And then you can also pan them differently and save it digitally. While this one I had to have the external preset box here, foot controller they called it. But yeah, it's definitely a tool. You probably can find one relatively cheap these days. Used. So little secret too there. Another one, if you aren't hip, check out my C4 synth pack, and you can get sounds like this. So, you know, that's a sound right there you can easily start to create with. You know, it is in the key of G, but you can always change the key in the settings. So if you go to the settings in your Nero 3 app, you'll be able to get that. Let's see. Let's do a little bit here. Yeah, I like that sound. So we'll start there. See, that's a little loud. I gotta bring that back down. Matter of fact, let's go back to the. Yeah, that's perfect. Start there. Yeah, let's start there. think I might still do that though. I don't even like that tempo. That tempo is a little slow. But what I want, let's do this. Save, so I ain't gotta keep doing that. All right. Yeah, that's much more lively. Let me make sure I think I just kicked this camera. Probably did, and it did, as usual. Eventually, I'm gonna have to put this on a clip or something where I ain't gonna kick it. So I hope you guys have been enjoying ambient bass mornings, bass effects mornings rather. So what you're hearing there, if you're just joining us, first off, hit the like button wherever you are. Thank you. Appreciate you on TikTok. Appreciate you over on YouTube, hitting that reactions, hitting that hype button for me. I appreciate y'all a lot. It means a lot to me. Got a few comments here. Feel free to comment. It's a good time to ask questions. So, of course, you guys got to see me make that like kind of there on the spot. So, you know, let's walk through a few of those sounds. The first thing I did was use a harmonizer patch I created on the C4 synth, and it gives you that chordal effect. And mind you, that is right soon as you know what I'm saying, download that preset pack for the C4 synth from the Patreon. You know what I'm saying? You got to be your own commercial. You feel me? I'm not waiting for nobody to put me on. I'm put myself on. And you guys put me on. Appreciate you. So, C4 synth pack is on there. My man said Freebird. I think that's just going to be a running joke from just people going to start asking songs all the time just because they know I am about it. That's good. Y'all hilarious. You know, start there, simple patch. Then from there, I added a patch from the Future Impact preset pack available on Patreon. If you haven't already, you should, and you play bass, right? Now, I know they all that hype about the MXR one, but nobody talking about the Future Impact V4 VIP. Look how small it is. It's little. And it sounds amazing. Like, there is no other bass synth pedal that sounds that good like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Enzo X does sound good now, but for the vintage synth, nah. This joint wins all day, hands down. Oh, and just so we clear, sometimes when I play, a lot of times when I play, I kind of suck my teeth. It's just like it's almost like a snare beat. It's just something I've been doing as a kid. So a lot of times if I leave the mic on, you hear that it's not a clicking noise on the audio. It's literally me making that. That's literally me. But yeah, if you haven't, check it out, man. That's just dirty. It even tracks that. Woo! You see, I did a slide and a hammer and a slide back down. So yeah, just in my opinion, it's the best vintage bass synth pedal that is out, and it's not even close. On top of that, you can take that sound. Say I wanted to use some of the motif bass synths. Now I can literally take a MIDI out of the Future Impact and control the sounds on the motif with my bass, the same way I'm controlling the internal synth with my bass, you know. So basically it'll track my bass and allow me to play other MIDI capable devices as well as voltage controlled devices as well. Controlled voltage devices rather. So, which is like the vintage bigger synths and stuff like that. So also things like the electro harmonics blurst also can be controlled through CV. which is control voltage as well. So nice features on there. But nobody seems to. I'm trying to wonder, like, why everybody wants to know about that MXR pedal so much when you got the Future Impact out that's kicking butt. It just. So you're hearing the octave up of my bass running through distortion, and you're hearing the synth all at once. So now I've completely transformed my bass into a lead guitar sound stacked on top of a bass synth sound, all on one patch, all in the preset pack, available on the Patreon. Get you the preset packs. Let's go. What? Are we really talking about tracking like that? Like, come on now. Now, granted, I do have to alter, I have to play to the pedal. But, really all I did was when it was glitching out a lot, I just had a little bit, I had my bass, like the bass frequency on my bass flat, and it kind of was making it glitch out in the lower frequencies. But nobody's even close. No, and what? What? They give you 4 oscillators in this Future Impact, right? You talking about getting to the money.